Eugenics comes from the Greek for good birth. The term was coined by Francis Galton, Charles Darwin's cousin. He theorized that just as we breed horses for speed, we could breed humans for intelligence and moral character. We distinguish between positive eugenics, encouraging the fit, usually white, wealthy, and educated, to have large families, and negative eugenics, preventing the unfit, poor, disabled, criminals, and minorities from breeding. The U.S. policy focused heavily on the negative, segregation, and sterilization. In 1924, Virginia passed the Sterilization Act. It allowed the state to sterilize residents of state institutions who were deemed feeble-minded or genetically defective. They wanted a test case to ensure it was constitutional. They chose Carrie Buck. Carrie was 17, a resident of the Virginia State Colony for Epileptics and Feeble-Minded. She was the daughter of a woman deemed feeble-minded, and she had given birth to an illegitimate child, who was actually the result of rape, though the court ignored that. The state argued that her defect was hereditary, and that 3 generations of imbeciles were a burden on society. The case went to the Supreme Court in 1927. In an 8-1 decision, the court upheld the law. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jr., a progressive hero, wrote the most infamous line in American legal history: "It is better for all the world if instead of waiting to execute degenerate offspring for crime, or to let them starve for their imbecility, society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough." This ruling has never been explicitly overturned. It opened the floodgates. Over 60,000 Americans were forcibly sterilized in the 20th century. Initially, eugenics targeted the white poor, like Carrie Buck. But after WTO2, the focus shifted to racial minorities. North Carolina ran a massive program targeting black women, often using social workers to coerce them. Get sterilized or lose your welfare benefits. In the South, the practice of performing hysterectomies on black women without their knowledge during other surgeries became known as the Mississippi appendectomy. In the 1970s, the Indian Health Service sterilized huge numbers of Native American women. Some estimates say 25% of women of childbearing age, often without proper consent. Eugenics also drove immigration policy. Harry Laughlin, a leading eugenicist, testified to Congress that immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe, Italians, Jews, were genetically inferior and would pollute the American gene pool. This testimony directly led to the Immigration Act of 1924, which drastically restricted immigration from those regions. The goal was to maintain the Nordic/Anglo-Saxon character of the nation. The fear was race suicide, that the superior stock would be outbred by the inferior. You might think this ended in the 70s. It didn't. Between 2006 and 2010, doctors in California prisons performed illegal tubal ligations on nearly 150 female inmates. When investigated, one doctor defended the practice by saying it was cost-effective, that it saved the state money in future welfare costs for unwanted children. This is the same utilitarian logic as 1927. Fiscal responsibility justifies the violation of bodily integrity. It shows that eugenic thinking is dormant in the bureaucracy, waiting for an opportunity to reemerge. There is also private eugenics. An organization called Project Prevention pays drug addicts $300 cash if they agree to be sterilized or get long-term birth control. Their slogan is, "Don't let a junkie have a baby." Critics call this coercive, exploiting addiction and poverty to permanently end a person's fertility. Supporters say it is a rational harm reduction strategy that protects potential children. This debate forces us to ask, is it ethical to buy the fertility of the desperate? Most recently, in 2020, a whistleblower nurse named Dawn Wooten alleged that a gynecologist at an ICE detention center in Georgia was performing high rates of hysterectomies on immigrant detainees. She called him the uterus collector. Many women reportedly did not understand why they were having surgery due to language barriers. While the scale is debated, the echo of history is deafening. Vulnerable, confined populations, whether in 1927 Virginia or 2020 Georgia, are always at risk of having their reproduction controlled by the state. Finally, we face the future of liberal eugenics. This isn't the state forcing sterilization. This is parents choosing to design their children. With CRISPR and pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, we can screen embryos. In Iceland, nearly 100% of Down syndrome pregnancies are terminated. Is this eugenics, or is it reproductive autonomy? Philosophers distinguish between state-driven eugenics, bad, and consumer-driven eugenics, complicated. But the result is the same: a society that decides certain kinds of lives are not worth living. To conclude, Lesson 2. Eugenics is not a history lesson, it is a logic. It is the logic that says biology determines worth, and that the state has an interest in the quality of the gene pool. As long as we care about healthcare costs and fitness, the temptation of eugenics will remain. The only antidote is a stubborn commitment to human dignity that defies economic calculation. In the next lesson, we turn to the other side of the reproductive coin, abortion policy, from Roe to Dobbs.